What's going on, Giants fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in today's video, we're going to discuss how a couple of the Giants rookie edge rushers match up amongst the edge rusher unit. I'm really excited to talk about the first of the two and the second as well, but in particular, Azeez Ojulari, because this was a home run pick by the New York Football Giants. And like I said, the Giants made it a focal point this offseason to improve that pass rusher unit, and that's exactly what we did. We ranked 12th in the NFL last year with 40 sacks, with guys like Carter Coughlin, Jabal Sheard, and Kyler Fackrell rushing the passer. That pretty much goes to show you how weak that edge rusher unit was. No disrespect to those players, but the Giants were without a couple of key hogs in that edge rusher group, as in Lorenzo Carter and O'Shane Ximines, who are both coming off injuries. But the Giants, I mentioned, had 40 sacks as a defense, but only 9.5 of those sacks came from the edge rusher position. So when people look at 40 sacks, you have to be very specific. Where are those sacks coming from? Are they coverage sacks? Are they defensive line sacks? Are they secondary sacks? Are they edge rusher sacks? Only 9.5 of those 40 sacks came from the edge rusher position. The most consistent edge rusher for us last year was Kyler Fackrell, who was signed by the LA Chargers. This is a guy who was supposed to be our third or fourth edge rusher, and he ended up becoming our first. After we traded away Marcus Golden, we weren't using him much anyway, and Ximines and Carter went down to injury. So as I'm getting into Azeez Ojulari now, I want to remind you all to make sure to follow us on Big Blue Avenue on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Big Blue Avenue for more of this exclusive off-season content. Really do appreciate all the support that we got. Had an awesome video with Brian McGardle back on Friday, talking to him about rookie cornerback Aaron Robinson, as he's a big UCF fan. Great results with those videos, so really appreciate it. But Azeez Ojulari, I want to talk about him and what he brings to the table. Azeez Ojulari is 20 years old. 6'3", 250 pounds. He's not turning 21 until June, so he's a very young player, a guy who had a first-round evaluation on him, but his knee injury kept him out of the first round. In fact, the Giants took the guy at 50 that they would have taken at 42. So the fact that not only did you get him in the second round, but you traded back for him in the second round, that is some really good stuff. He was also the highest-graded pass rusher in the 2021 NFL Draft, with a 91.7 grade. Not to mention, he also has ties to this coaching staff, ties to a couple of the players. He fills a hole on this football team, had 9.5 sacks this past year at Georgia, 12.5 tackles for loss, as we're going to dive into some of the film here. Overall, you can see on this play, he just beats the left tackle with speed, does a good job staying on his feet, takes the quarterback down for a strip sack, and recovers the fumble on top of it, giving Georgia the ball. And you can see it here in slow motion again at that 5-tech position. Just does a fantastic job off the edge. Number 64 has no shot, takes him to the ground, nearly face masked him, but Ojulari still able to wrap up that quarterback. Here's one play against Mac Jones. I really like how he hits Mac Jones. The ball goes up like a lollipop, forces an interception. There he is, full burst of speed, and he's rushing that left side against guys like Alex Leatherwood. And here's one play against Cincinnati in the Chick-fil-A bowl game. It reminds me a lot of Osi Umenyiora with that strip sack move. Here's one against Bo Nix in Auburn. Again, doing a nice job coming in late. So he can rush you from the outside or the inside. That's what I really like about him. And again, here in motion, they give it off to the running back. He can stop the run. Look at him stack up his shoulders, get high, bring that running back down, elevate his tackling. I really like that out of Azeez Ojulari. And then here's a little fake. He's the second guy coming in here towards the end. Help strips that football away from the back, forcing a safety. So I really like Azeez Ojulari and what he brings to the table. And you can see what I mean based off of that film right there. He led the SEC in sacks, tackles for loss, and 4 forced fumbles. That also led the SEC in 2020. He's a speedster who ran a 4.61 40-yard dash. Now, he does have a limited array of pass rushing moves, but I really like him. He's good in the run game, good bend around the edge, not the most technically skilled. He needs more experience, so I think by the end of 2021, Azeez Ojulari will be our number one edge rusher on this football team. I'm going to be a little, not really bold, but I'll just come out and say it because I really like this football player, what he brings. He's a second-round pick. We drafted Lorenzo Carter 3 years ago out of the same school in the third round. I think Azeez Ojulari has a higher ceiling than Carter. I think he's better than Zimenez. I think he's better than Elerson Smith. He's better than everyone else we have on our roster. So I think he won't start as the number one edge rusher. I think he'll win the number two behind Lorenzo Carter. I think they're going to start both of them. But again, he's going to play over 50% of the snaps easily. I'd say more around 60 to 70% of the snaps, as the Giants do like to rotate their edge rusher position. And, I think he's going to be an awesome fit for this team. Never missed a game in 3 years at Georgia. Andrew Thomas was at his draft party. So Azeez Ojulari, that's where I think he's going to fit amongst this Giants edge rusher unit, towards the top two of that depth chart. So I think he will be a starter. Next guy is Elerson Smith, fourth-round pick, number 116 overall, out of Northern Iowa. This was clearly a best player available pick. If you told me the first pick of day 3 we're going to spend on an edge rusher after taking one with our first pick in day 2, I would have thought you were crazy. But the more I thought about this pick, it's outstanding. He's 6'6", potentially taller at 6'7". You put cleats on him, 252 pounds. He has outstanding size. He didn't play last year, but he's very long and lanky. He has a 41-inch vertical. I really like him. He had the highest vertical out of any defensive end in the 2021 NFL draft class. So he's a crazy, freakish athlete. 14 sacks, 21 and a half tackles for loss back in 2019. He also had 5 forced fumbles and 2 blocked kicks, so he can do a little bit of everything. He can rush inside as well. He struggled against the run, but he's pretty much a pass rush specialist who has a good first move off the line of scrimmage. I should change the word good to great. I mean, you can see here, Northern Iowa is an FCS school, so the competition isn't exactly great, but he did go up against his former college teammate in practice often, Spencer Brown, who was a third-round pick in this year's draft by the Buffalo Bills. Here's a play against Trey Lance, just gets his hands up there to deflect that pass. So Trey Lance was the third overall pick in the draft by the 49ers? So, yeah, that's him taking advantage of the third overall pick right there, making a nice play. This guy has a ton of potential. I really like him a lot. He's going to compete with Carter and Zimenez. I think ultimately Ojulari will be the number 1 edge rusher. I think Elerson Smith is competing for edge rusher 3, edge rusher 4 reps. I think Elerson Smith will be the number 3 edge rusher during the 2021 season. I think he's a very, very good young, raw, talented prospect who will have to get back into things. Again, he didn't play in 2020, so they had to base a lot of this off the pro day results. So I thought he did a really nice job. He's a family-oriented guy also who keeps to himself. He's not a guy that's going to cause drama or anything in the locker room. He's a Joe Judge quality type of player, which you want to see. He has a good array of pass rush moves, as I said, and I really like him a lot. He's going to compete with Carter and Zimenez in training camp, and we will see what happens there. So that's an interesting prospect. And then, we'll just go over some of the other ones and where I think they'll end up. But, like I said, the reason why I think Ojulari and Smith could potentially leapfrog Zimenez and Carter is because they're both coming off injuries. And the defensive scheme under Patrick Graham is changing. Lorenzo Carter is coming off that Achilles injury. Last year, he had a promising start. He played in the first 5 games before leaving the Dallas game. He had 1 sack, 15 tackles, and 4 QB hits. 9.5 sacks through 3 seasons with the Giants. Carter is also entering his contract year. As for Oshane Ximines, he's coming off a torn labrum. He only played 4 games last year. He had 3 starts. He's more of a situational pass rusher to me. 4.5 sacks as a rookie in 2019. His play wasn't great last year. I mean, he didn't play much to begin with. But I think he might lose some snaps to a Fadio Denibo, who we signed in free agency. I think Oshane Ximines could be a potential surprise cut candidate. So now that I have Smith, Carter, and Ojulari as our 3 top edge rushers, I'm going to dive into Ifeadi Odenigbo a little bit. Local kid from Bayonne, New Jersey, 7th-round pick in 2017 by the Vikings. Bounced around a couple practice squads. I think he's going to play a good amount of snaps as a rotational piece. I don't think necessarily he'll cut in to Azeez Ojulari's reps, but I think Elerson Smith may have to earn some reps from him towards the start of the season. Ojulari is a solid pass rusher who's good against the run. He's not very fast, but he's very powerful. He's a versatile player who can play the 3-tech or the 4-eye. In 2019, had 7 sacks as a backup for the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, had 3.5 sacks, 15 QB hits, and 15 starts on an atrocious Vikings defensive line. It was one of the worst in the NFL. In fact, it might have been the worst. And last year, all of these rotational guys that the Giants had played to their strengths. That's what bringing in coaches like Joe Judge and Patrick Graham do. Guys play to their strengths. And I expect Ifeadi Odenigbo to do the exact same thing. Carter Coughlin, I don't know where he's going to fit into the rotation. He's a bit undersized. He did have a sack last year, ended up playing 14 games for us, had 2 starts, which is astonishing from a 7th-round pick. We went out and signed Ryan Anderson again. At this point, these are guys towards the back end of the depth chart. Cam Brown was primarily a special teams player. I don't think he's going to do too much. But going back to Ryan Anderson for a minute, this is a guy who might surprise some people. In 2019, he played all 16 games starting 4, had 44 tackles, 9 QB hits, 4 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 2 recoveries. So I think he's an interesting player as well who will fit this scheme from Patrick Graham. And it was so interesting last year because we were so depleted at the edge rusher position. We had Nico Lelos out there for a couple of games. He was interesting, too, because you got to consider him in this rotation. He forced 2 turnovers in his first 2 NFL games. So right then and there, we pretty much just went over 7-8 guys that are going to get quality snaps at that edge rusher position. The bottom line is when you add rookies like Elerson Smith and Azeez Ojulari, the Giants' defense instantly becomes better. We had 40 sacks last year with pretty much no-name players out there. I think the Giants could be a 50-plus sack team this season. We improved our secondary and edge rusher unit, so I think it'll help disguise blitzes. Offenses are going to have to stay true. I think it's going to be interesting to see how losing Dalvin Tomlinson affects our sack total, but we improved the edge rusher position. We have Leonard Williams. We have Sexy Dexy on that defensive line, so I think that's going to free up some lanes. Blake Martinez had 3 sacks from the linebacker position too. So I think Ojulari and Smith, I'm not going to come out and predict sack numbers for these players, but I do think both of them are going to put up quality numbers and play for this football team in 2021. Guys, I want to thank you all so much for watching this video on how I think Azeez Ojulari and Elerson Smith will stack up amongst the Giants edge rushers. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support. Going to be putting out more videos over the course of the offseason. Have a lot more fun stuff in store. Remember, if you like what you watch, ring that bell, subscribe, give us a little thumbs up on our videos. Thank you all very much. Hope you all have a good day. Appreciate it. Take care.